Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob along with Randy Cardoon and Troy Ladd from Hollywood Hot Rods. We're at the Grand National Roadster Show in the United Pacific booth. It is another great day of auto show action, and you've got gas, the great American auto scene, along with talking about cars right here today. Troy Ladd, premier hot rod builder here in the San Fernando Valley, California, located in Burbank. It's Hollywood Hot Rods.
Yeah, Hollywood. I mean, Burbank is the real Hollywood, right? Like that's where all the studios are. That is Hollywood, Burbank. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you've been building hot rods, and you've been building some exciting hot rods since you started. I mean, as soon as you got on the map with Hollywood Hot Rods, you were recognized.
Yeah, I really got fortunate with that. Well, I mean, I'm kind of the classic living the American dream, take a hobby, turn it into a business. Bad life choice, typically. You know, when you have I had a real job with a paycheck, like, I'm just going to scratch that and go ahead and like build cars, my passion for a living. Yeah. But it worked out. So I've been doing that since I was 16. But as a business, that was 2002. And again, I was very fortunate to, like, pretty quickly off the bat get media attention and some exposure. We did the Rides television show, I think my first year after opening Hollywood Hot Rods. And and then it's something like that. It's like, oh, okay, so you got a TV show, whatever. Can you really build cars? But then, like, as you know, then we followed up with another show car that we win. Then we did America's Most Beautiful Roadster. Then we just kept kind of building on what we started. And again, it's been a pretty crazy ride, but I couldn't be happier than, I couldn't be happier because I get to actually make a living doing my passion. And how many people get to say that?
Let's go back to where the start of the passion happened. What first got your attention as far as automobiles are concerned, and what was your first car?
So that's kind of an interesting story because I don't come from, a little bit different than a lot of guys here, because I don't really come from a family background of any of this. How it worked out for me is at 16, I was handed down from my grandfather to my father a 66 Mustang. That was my first car. I didn't even know what a Mustang was. I didn't even know it was cool or not. It was just something that I needed to get to school and work. So I grew up fairly poor, and in that manner, if you have something, a tool, like a car, to live your day-to-day life and try to survive, when it breaks and you don't have any money, what do? You learn how to fix it.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of my introduction into this, and then from there I realized, hey, a 66 Mustang is kind of cool. And then I started I don't know where it happens, but you guys have it. At some point you catch the sickness.
Yeah.
You get the obsession, and once you catch it, you never shake it. So with that car, now I was still, again, high school age, I got into street racing and drag racing, and then it's kind of like it's not like what's on TV, but it was similar, where it was organized, out of the way, in a farm, somewhere out in the valley. So it's not like you're doing stuff actually on the street. But so my whole life was, okay, save up money, work on the car all week, then Sunday night we go out and race. So that's kind of how that happened. And then in that process, being exposed to cars, like going to like Bob's Big Boy and cruise nights and things like that, I saw hot rods. And I didn't know what they were. I just thought they were cool. So my second car was a 36 5-window coupe. And I bought it for $1,900. And I'm not going to tell you the year because that might date me. But I just learned how to build that from the ground up because I didn't know any better. So that's kind of the evolution. And from there, again, never lost it. Could never shake it.
Was there somebody who motivated you, though, to get into that frame? Was it an auto shop teacher? Was it somebody else?
Nope. I think that the most inspirational person in this process would have been my grandfather. Because my grandfather was old school. He worked for Hughes Aircraft. He's an engineer. He built, designed like missile systems and sonar systems, and just the ultimate briefcase, pocket protector, World War II. He was a World War II veteran. He was a pilot in World War II. So that mentality of that age group was, you don't pay someone, you don't pay a mechanic. You have a problem, you learn how to do it. Like even growing up, if there was a plumbing problem, he'd make me crawl into the house and we'd fix it ourselves. There was that was just that mentality where you do everything yourself. So he was the one that said, well, what's wrong with your car? I don't know. He's like, well, you're going to have to figure it out. And he would help me. So together he would kind of point me in the right direction on how to do it. Sadly, much to a little bit of his disappointment, I never shook it. Because for him, it was just out of necessity.
Yeah.
Out of necessity. For me, I kind of got sucked in.
All right, when you started your shop, you surrounded yourself with craftsmen. I can remember Frenchie doing the lead work on the cars, and the chassis builders that you had, the guys that were working on it. You had the concept, you oversaw what was going on, but you surrounded yourself with the guys that could actually do it.
Right. So my idea behind that. So I've, again, coming from my grandfather and all that, I know how to do everything. I can build an entire car, including painting myself. I've done it as a hobby. But then when it's time to turn it into a business, you got to think bigger. So that was the idea, is when I try to take my hobby and my passion and then transfer into a business. Okay, how do you do that? I have a degree in business. So I sent myself through college. I did all the right stuff. I was a project manager in the development industry. So I built hospitals before I quit to do cars. So I thought, you need a name, you need marketing. I wanted to come into this industry with a little bit of a presence if I could. And that's why I created Hollywood Hot Rods and the name. And part of that is, I'm not going to come in like Troy Ladd, greatest hot rod builder ever shop, or Troy Ladd's Hot Rods. I thought Hollywood Hot Rods make, again, more of a, not only use the word corporate, but more of a presence. And in that vein, what's the best thing that you can do? Hire people that are better than you. Build a team. If you have the best metal guy, the best, wiring guy, you put them all together, there's no way a single guy can ever beat that. So that was the idea, kind of the team concept, and that's kind of how that came to be.
And you built some amazing cars, not only the AMBR winners, but you guys took the box of a model car and made it into a real car, the real creation. What was it? The
Black Widow.
Black Widow, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if any, I would encourage anyone to Google it. Look it up. The Black Widow. So that was, I believe, I don't have my statistics correct. So don't look me up and then tell me I'm wrong. But it was one of the highest sold model cars in the, I believe, it was early '60s for Monogram. And so that was one of their most famous model cars. And the interesting thing about that car, it was not based on a real car. Much of those models were based on real cars or race cars or show cars. This was a gentleman by the name of Roger Harney. He was the designer for Monogram, might have been Revell at the time, but Monogram Revell. Right. He took from car shows, pieces of things that he saw, and just designed this car for them to market and sell. And it was a model. And it was really, it was one of their most popular models. So then fast forward till, this was probably 2008 or 9, a customer comes to us. Again, customers are key to this too. I'm only as good as people are willing to pay me to do. So not my idea. Customer comes in and said, this is the model I built as a kid. It's the greatest thing in the world that I remember as a child that got me into cars. What if we turned it into a real car? So we backwards engineered a scale model and created it into a one-to-one real car, which was cool.
It was, and I remember my son was the gopher for you, kind of, in those days. And I remember him working, and I forget the other gentleman's name he was working with, but they were putting together the chassis, and you doing the measurements on the model, and having to make the curves in the frame to match what the model was.
Yep.
So it was not, well, let's get a TCI chassis here, and we'll get a Bell axle there. It was, here's the dimensions, let's make this fit and have the same curves as the model. And then you recreated the box, and it was part of the display.
That was also the owner's idea. But that was really neat, because I remember doing a lot of that stuff where we would take the pieces of the model, it's a 1/25th scale, whatever the scale is, it's just math, multiply it out, and then recreate it. I believe, I want to say, I might be mistaken, but I think your son was there the night, because I made the frame myself. And I remember shaping it, and I remember drawing it out on the floor, and I think he may have helped me.
Yes, he did, because I was there watching.
Okay.
I was there, because I had come to pick him up, and he said, no, we're working on this.
Yeah.
And it was a kick. You really had an influence on my son. And we got a funny story, too, about a car.
Oh, yeah.
That we started. started building for my son, and it ended up staying at your shop.
So yeah,
Yeah, tell us about it.
okay. So it was a little Model A Roadster, and you guys bought it. You were going to build it, and then I guess you went a different direction or something.
He
and
decided he couldn't lock it, he couldn't drive it in the rain, he couldn't
Yeah.
take it to school.
So I bought it, right?
Yeah.
I bought it, and then again, you know how this goes. Like, oh, I'm going to build that for me. I have lots of projects. Oh, I got all these parts. I'm going to build that for me. There's probably not enough years in my lifetime to build all the projects. So I bought this, and I had it in the back, and it just sat in the back of the shop for many years. And then I sold it to another gentleman who wanted it built, and then he ended up not building it. So I sold it. He brought it back, and this was the weird thing. He said he gave it to me, even though he paid for it. And he said, God told me to give this to you. So we called it God's Rod. And it sat back there, again, for many more years.
Yeah.
And then I collected a little Hemi for it. And I started to collect parts for it to build a car someday.
Yeah.
And then inevitably what happens sometimes is somebody comes in and they see parts of one of those things. And they say, I'd like a car like that. What can you do for me? Like, well, I can sell you that one. So sold it, built it, and just last year, that car went off to its new owner, running and driving with a little, gosh, I forget what year, 54 Hemi, baby Hemi, like
A
a
little
red
Red Ram.
Ram
Little
Hemi.
Red Ram, yeah.
Yep, 5-speed and just
Oh,
very
geez.
traditional low. It's so cool.
Oh.
Again, when that
Gotta see the
happens, I want to
pictures.
keep
Yeah.
them.
I gotta
Yeah.
see the pictures when you get a chance.
So-
So you've been working on a lot of projects. The 32 Ford you first built for the TV show, that was an
Right.
amazing car with a Hemi, and you changed the body subtly.
Oh, that was my car. That was one of the
Yeah.
cars that really put us kind of on the map, because
Yes.
we competed here at the Grand National Roadster Show for the America's Most Beautiful Roadster Award, and that was 2007, I believe, and with my own car. And that was kind of unheard of at the time, because these were high dollar cars, high dollar builders, and I did an owner built, owner funded,
Yeah.
owner, everything car, and competed for Amber. And that was pretty neat, because some like hot rod historians have mentioned me, which I'm like flattered, but at that time it was really the middle of the billet kind of two-tone
Yeah.
paint craze, and I came in with a traditional car. But like as Bob mentioned, it was traditional in style, but we did all of the things of hand shaping or hand building a car that the spaceship looking cars at the time did. Like the Boyd cars and things that were totally hand built. So we took a 32 Roadster, sectioned it, moved metal, moved wheel wells, moved the dimensions, moved the wheelbase. It still appeared as if it was a 50s style car, but in actuality it was a pretty much full coach built car. Had a 392 Hemi, because Hemis are cool. I mean, and I had an original Hillborn from the drag racing days, because Hemi's 57, 58. But we hid electronic injectors, hid a computer system, so it looks like the old Hemis of the early days of drag racing, but it can operate like a street car. So those are all the neat innovations we did, but it really captured, I believe, that 50s era style. So that really kind of put my shop on the map.
The car that you once had that you wish you could get back.
My 36. Yep, 36 5-window coupe, just because it was really my first hot rod. I mean, the Mustang would be great too, because my grandpa gave it to my dad, which gave it to me. Either of those, but I would really like the 36. I mean, I don't know. The problem I have with that question is, for me, is like, there's apples and oranges. So people also, a similar question is, what's your favorite car? Like, how do you answer that?
Yeah.
Like, because a Mustang is not a roadster.
Right.
And a Ferrari is not a Ford. I mean, there's in our world, and drag cars are not road cars. And like, there is so much cool stuff in this industry, in this world. It's hard. So I want both of them, because one's a Mustang, one's a hot rod.
Okay, so give me a car, maybe a couple, that is on the I want that list
Oh gosh.
someday.
I've kind of accomplished those for the most part, but I
There's nothing
have.
out there that you want to see? That you
Okay,
wanna own?
here's. I don't want them to take my hot rod card away. So I don't want to lose my hot rod card, but I've been curious a little bit. I mean, this is going to sound so bad. I've been curious a little bit about exotics. I think exotic cars. I think I might like to beat on a Ferrari or something a little bit. You know, because I've been doing a little bit of road racing. I have a full race prep Mustang that I track, and that's a fun car. And I've driven some other cars, and I'm like, I don't know if I would. Again, I don't know if they'd even let me in this building if I owned a Ferrari. You know, but
there's a Ferrari just a couple of blocks
there is.
away, yeah.
But like again, for car guys, everybody, car guys, there is so much to respect about different genres and different types of cars. But probably my next car for me, Model A coupe with a Hemi. I've got all the parts to do a Model A, a Hemi-powered Model A. So I've had 32s, I've had Model A Roadsters. I have a 34 Chevy coupe. I have a Model A I want to build. So that'll be my next hot rod. But I did just acquire a just really, really cool, we call it the Doer coupe. So I don't know if you haven't seen this, it was on the cover of Hot Rod a while back. So I was able to acquire a 1932 Ford that was built in the 50s, that was stored away in 1961 and never seen the light of day until now. So it's literally a time capsule. So I own that, which is pretty cool, but I can't touch it. I got to just drive it. So I drive that. It's fun, but.
All right, now you talk about different cars. You did one heck of an interesting Comet.
The Comet, we call the world's most expensive Comet, or the world's most modified Comet. So that was for Davida, who's my fiance, and she had a '63 Comet convertible that she bought at the Great Labor Day Cruise in Costa Mesa, which has been a show going on for 25, a long time. So this is before when we had first met, and she liked it because it was cute and it was a convertible and it had fins. So she drove that to law school, and she drove that as her daily for many years. And again, it sat in the back of our shop for years as well, and we ended up pulling out of mothballs and just building like the craziest '63 Comet that we could think of. So
I can't think of any '63 Comet that has been redone as a custom. So I think you have the market.
And that's why we joke, like world's most modified, world's most expensive, whatever, because there aren't that many. They only made 3,000 something of them to begin with. So we started with an S22 convertible. So if you want to see it, go on my website, HollywoodHotRods.com, and you can see the build of the Comet. But it's basically a pro touring kind of retro, resto mod custom. It's on bags. It's got 15-inch wheels in like wide wheels in the back.
And the bottom line, she loves it.
She loves it. It's beautiful. It's still elegant and cute. At the time, this was when the Coyote Mustang, the Coyote engine for the Mustang had first came out, and we ended up connecting with Ford, and we had done the first Coyote ever in a hot rod. So they also gave me another one for her car. So Coyote, overdrive, everything's computer controlled, computer fuel injection, air conditioning, power steering, stuff for that a lady would like, but it's fast. And again, big old tires in the back, so it gets down, and it's neat.
Talk a little bit about how using United Pacific's bodies and how that works as far as when you build those cars.
So for us, we are known. We have respect tradition as our motto. And everyone knows that we build traditional styled cars. We do a lot of different cars, 60s, 50s, but we're really known for traditional style. And I emphasize style because I like the aesthetic of traditional cars, but we're still artists, so we move forward with creativity. So when we use a body like the United Pacific body, we only work with steel. We are craftsmen, coach builders too. We don't do fiberglass. We cut and weld steel, and sometimes, the manufacturers like United Pacific or even Brookville, guys like that, they understand that we usually buy their bodies and cut them up, but not in a bad way. That is the basis. What's better than trying to find some, a 5.1, a 32 5.1 in a field somewhere, pay an exorbitant amount of money, fix the rust, fix the problems, then start your build, or go to United Pacific, buy a brand new steel body and go. And so that's why this has really been a big part of us, because we can start right off with a steel body, build an awesome car, and just move along. So
that's interesting, and you could use it you say for different things, you could use it for the full body, you could just take the parts off it and use certain parts in certain applications.
Sure. Well, I mean, if we do end up like a customer does bring us an original car or something like that, then we have replacement panels and things to bring that car in line. Or we start with a fresh project, brand new body, chop the top, section, channel, whatever the design requires.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty, the evolution of manufacturers like this have really been pivotal in the car building world.
What kind of cars do you have here, and what are some of the ones you're working on now for later?
So today in our booth at the Roadster Show, we have kind of a weird mix. So we have a 32 three-window coupe project that we didn't bring the body, it's just the chassis. And it is hard to explain. There's so much trick design items on it. It's the theme is, which if you can follow it, is vintage 30s European sports car design in an American bodied race car.
Makes complete sense to
So,
me.
yeah.
Okay.
And when you see it, you'll see like, oh yeah, that's European. Oh, that's English. So that's our kind of our premier car. We were pushing it, hoping to finish it for the show, but you can't rush these things. So we
Right.
just brought the chassis. Then we brought a '56 Plymouth two-door wagon, which is odd and unique. Well, let's use the word unique. And you'll see the design drawings where we've pancaked the roof, chopped the roof, taken out like the B and C pillars, done hard top the doors, did a sweeping B pillar and placed it straight.
Like the Nomad.
Similar, but we don't want it to look like a Nomad.
No, of course not.
But
No.
yes,
Kinda.
yeah. So that's a fun one because people say, oh, we know them for their traditional hot rods, but look at this big wagon. And then we also have a 40 Ford, which is, that's just a beautiful Ford design that's always just stood on its own.
Sure.
So we have a 40 Ford in our booth with a Borla stack injected new Coyote engine backed by a computer-controlled 6-speed out of a new Mustang. So it's modern technology in a vintage package, which is fun. So those are the three we have in our booth.
So you're very progressive in what you're doing. You're keeping the tradition alive, but you're using modern technology to make them more drivable.
Yeah, and we've always done that. And I've had discussions with people like, oh, so you're that traditional car builder. I said, I don't consider us a traditional car builder. We like traditional aesthetic.
Right.
But yes, drivability and functionality are key components of building an overall, amazing car. And every car we build, the theme or the design, the style is particular to that owner, to that design. So it's not just the same cookie cutter over and over. We love the design challenges that we do. I mean, we get ourselves into trouble because we go pretty deep and like, let's create our own brake system. Let's create our own suspension system. But for me, that's the fun. It's having those ideas and then solving the challenge of creating them.
Very interesting. Well, we appreciate the time.
Yes.
Thank you so much for staying with us and giving us a little insight into what you're doing and some of the cars here at the Gray National Roadster Show. And Bob, I think you have some information there for us.
I do. United Pacific Car Parts has got some great deals for you right now, especially because of the Grand National Roadster Show. If you go to upcarparts.com, 20% off on select purchases. They've got things listed there. You enter GNRS20 as the discount code, and if you want a complete body, $2,000 off list price right now, right off the bat. You got yourself fresh steel. You don't have to repair, you go right to build.
All right, something to keep in mind. Hollywood Hot Rods. Troy from Hollywood Hot Rods has joined us here. And Bob, it's been quite a day,
It
quite
has
a
been a busy
weekend.
day. And thank you very much for coming in.
Yep.
You've always had an exciting shop, like you said. You keep the tradition alive, but you make people drive them too.
We try, and just like I said, I always tell people we're just having fun with cars.
That's it. That's great. I got to get a picture of that Roadster finished.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
really got to give my son a hard time about that.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be fun.
All right, guys, until next time, we appreciate you sticking with us. Check out any of our videos, and in case you missed anything, we're going to rerun some of this on our Talking About Cars podcast at radio.com, iTunes, KNX1070.com, Alexa. You can listen to it on Alexa and more, so stick with us for that. Along with Bob and Troy, I'm Randy Cardoon, and we'll see you next time.